It's 2014. It's not the first Tuesday of 2014, but it is a Tuesday. So this Tuesday I've decided to do something a little bit different. I'm going to be doing my top books of 2014. I don't have any of them here, but we're going to talk about them. So my first books are some that have just stood out for me for some reason. I don't really understand why, but yeah. So my first books are some that have just stood out for me for some reason. I don't really understand why, but yeah. So the first book is My Salinger Year by Joanna Rakoff. Now, this book, for some reason, has stuck with me. Maybe it's because of my love of J.D. Salinger, and maybe it's just because it was well written. The storyline, I remember it being not so great, but it definitely stood out for me. So, my second book of 2014 is a book called Less Than Zero by something Eston Ellis. But this book was recommended to me by a friend, and I really enjoyed it, but it was so different from anything I'd ever read before that it still stuck out for me. And I didn't think that the narrative was that great, and I didn't think the storyline was that powerful, and I didn't think it was that well written, but because it was something entirely new, entirely different, that it really seemed to stand out for me more than a lot of the books that I read in 2014 did. Yeah. Perhaps it's because it's an autobiography and not a fiction book, but I really, really love Cider with Rosie by Laurie Lee. I adore everything about it. I adore seeing it in the non-fiction section with all of the other biographies. I love the way that Penguin Books is bringing out more and more absolutely incredible editions of it with beautiful covers, and there's something about the narrative of it, the way that the story is told, the way that it's almost unbelievable, but you know it has to be believable because it's an autobiography. Everything about it is just a little bit bizarre, and I just love that. I don't know what it is about it, I just love it. My fourth book of 2014 is Yann Martel's The Life of Pi. And this book, and I'm sure for many of you and many people that you know, is absolutely outstanding and unbelievable and incredible. And I think what really stood out for me was the fact that it has such a breadth of different things in it. It just talks about so much in one concise novel. Also, shortly after I read the book, I saw the movie, and that was almost equally as good. It was still pretty damn amazing. So, if you're not interested in reading the book, watch the movie. Now, my next book is a little bit of a wild card. It's one that was just recommended to me off the hook, and I think it's the one book that I love recommending to people. Every time anyone ever asks me what I should read, I just say this book. And it's The Uncommon Reader by Bennett. Now, Alan Bennett isn't someone I normally read a lot of. I do enjoy his books because he's so witty and fun, and there's always interesting things that he writes about, and they're never the same, and the stories are always quite easy to read even though they have quite deep meanings. But The Uncommon Reader is literally just a lot of fun. I can't think of very much about it that's really important, apart from that it's about how interesting and important reading is to people and how much it changes people's lives. But other than that, it's just a fun story about very, very British things. And I just think it's fun, and it's a bit of a novelty, really. Now, the next two books I'm gonna pair because there's something in my brain that pairs them together. The first of these two books is The Book Thief by Markus Zusak, and I just think this book is incredible. The way it's written, the narrative coming from death instead of Liesel. The whole book reflects such interesting things, and for me, it has created so many passionate and ridiculously deep discussions with people online and offline, friends of mine, people who have read it, people who haven't read it, people who just want to talk about it. And I think that that is one of the most wonderful things about reading, is that people genuinely want to just talk about what they've read all the time because of how touching it can be. But at the same time, this book was heartbreaking. It made me blood like a child, and I think because of this I've paired it with The Time Traveller's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger. I think that's how you say her name. Okay, so my last review is a little bit different, and it's a graphic novel, and it's called PlumDog, and it's by this lovely lady, and it is literally just an illustrated book in the year of the life of a dog, and it is beautiful and magical and wonderful and everything I could possibly hope for in a graphic novel, and there's nothing really that sad about it, and there's nothing that heartbreaking. It's literally just a dog living its life. So that is it. That is ReviewsDay Tuesday, the first of many, hopefully, this 2015. If you want to see last year's episode, you can click here. My Twitter, Tumblr and Goodreads are in the description below.